The special meeting of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment for June 19th, 2018 will please come to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Caruso.
Here.
Giordano. Casa.
Here.
Lozow. Here. Mafucci.
Here.
Sheldon.
Here.
Smith. Milano.
Here.
Del Garcia.
Here. Will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
And
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. As Madam Secretary, has notice of this meeting been given in accordance with the Sunshine Law?
Certification of the meeting has been advertised according to the Sunshine Law.
We're not doing any minutes tonight, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Special meeting.
I'm sure the applicant doesn't want to adjourn. That's the next question. The answer is no.
Oh, we're here for the evening.
Okay. And there's no resolutions that have been made up to be voted on. However, I want to make a motion that we go into private session for possible litigation.
Second.
Second.
With you guys.
Don't worry, you won't be charged.
Make a motion.
He made the motion. I know I made the motion. He's seconded.
Okay.
Motion made by Del Garcia, seconded by Milano. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Caruso. Casa.
Yes.
Lozow. Yes. Mafucci.
Yes.
Sheldon.
Yes.
Milano.
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes. We will all go in the back, so that way you don't have to leave. We're nicer than some other people.
Thank you.
We're going back on the record.
Motion to
You're making a motion?
Yes.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay. Clerk, call the roll. The camera running again?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Caruso.
Yes.
Casa.
Yes.
Lozow. Yes. Mafucci.
Yes.
Sheldon.
Yes.
Milano.
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes. That's not it. Yeah, but I know. Well, weren't you going to make 7 copies of that?
I could just pass it around.
Okay.
You asked for the names and everything, so it's all there.
Everything's okay?
Mr. Chairman, I have that notice housekeeping item from the last time around. You had asked for it to be noticed again and published.
Yeah.
You did that, and I have that affidavit of service. I just haven't submitted it yet.
Yeah, come on up, because we're starting the case anyway. We're calling the case. We're talking about ZB 2018-05, 229 Main Street, North Jersey advertising. The applicant is proposing to construct a 2-sided digital billboard on the property.
Okay. Good, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bern Heffley on behalf of the applicant. I was here at the last meeting when we set up the special meeting for tonight. And I had discussed the notice with the board attorney, and although it was legally correct, we decided that we were going to do a little belt and suspenders and notice it one more time, both in the paper and the correction was that to call it the Township Belleville Zoning Board rather than the Land Use Board, which was last time.
So this is the original? Right
Yeah,
here?
this is
the new one.
All right.
This is the new notice, the new certified, and the affidavit publication.
Okay. Thank you.
Let him review that, and then we can get moving.
So this is the same, Bern, except for the
Yeah.
zoning board of
That's the
adjustment.
only change on it, and
And
obviously the
the
date.
vote.
I didn't leave the old date, I put today's date.
Okay.
No problem.
All right, so notice and publication appear to be in order.
Yes.
And I've just manufactured an easel, so that's even better.
So we're going to put the notices as A1 for evidence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, before we get on to this, and discuss this with our attorney, you have requested a number of waiver requests in the site plan checklist. And I think go over this to make sure nobody has a problem with it. In other words, first things first. Okay. So you can explain which each one is that he's asking for.
If you have the application, it's page 1 of 4, site plan checklist form. It's for the rear of your packet.
What page on the back?
Yeah, and this is on every application that we have. If an applicant feels that a requirement is either not necessary or has no relevance to their application, they can request a waiver. And I would ask our board engineer to chime in, because some of this is, much of this is engineering kind of stuff.
And please get sworn in first.
Why don't we swear in
Swear in both of them.
Frank Lorenzo, the zoning officer, Tom Herritz is our board
Engineer and planner.
If you guys could raise your right hand with regard to this application, do you swear your testimony shall be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. The first waiver request is from the requirement that the key map with a north arrow and scale shall be provided, and then identification of all structures within 200 feet of the site, location of site regarding street intersections within 200 feet, and they are requesting a waiver from that. I'm assuming, Mr. Heffernan, that you don't feel that the nature of this application would warrant doing all that?
Exactly. I mean, the engineering aspect of the application is really limited to a hole in the ground, and the rest of the engineering or architectural, if you will, is really design of the billboard company, which we've submitted that architectural design, and we submitted a survey with the pole location, and that clearly shows the property and what we're proposing and where. So I think that covers it.
All right, Tom, do you have that?
Well, just to make it simple, so we're not dragging on. If
Okay.
you look at all the waivers they requested, the majority of them are unwarranted for this application.
Especially on page 2.
They deal with buildings, water and sewer service, grading.
Yep.
He's putting this in the parking lot, there's basically no grading. So I feel,
Let's just focus in on what you have a problem with, if any.
I don't have a problem with any of it.
Okay.
But what I want to go is the bottom of page 2, I believe he's no longer asked for a waiver of that because that's the notice list, isn't it?
That's names and owners and use of property of all lands adjacent.
Normally, people would list it on a set of plans. He's not doing that.
Right.
Normally, if you look at cover sheets and
Yeah.
plans, everything's on the plans. He's
That's fine.
looking for a waiver of that.
But he's provided that in order to
Well,
send the
in the
notice to
notice,
everybody.
yes, it's on the foot list, yes.
Yes, okay. So that's been provided anyway, but just not on the plans.
What I'm hearing, our engineer has no issues with the requested waivers. Most do relate to storms and drains and roots, none of which apply.
And I just wanted to clear that up. So none of the members have a problem with this, correct? So we can move on? Okay. Now, there is 2 questions I'm going to ask. I'm a very big pain in the neck on stuff like this. And that is, I would love to know who are the people that signed these, because it says New Jersey Advertising, and I don't think they signed anything. So there's a person who signed, but you can't make out the signature.
Yeah, on the
And also for Dorso Realty, I'd like to know who made that signature.
The signatures on the application?
Yes.
The application for North Jersey Advertising, that was signed by myself as their attorney. And,
That's what you did? Okay. And how about the owner?
right, that is Dorso Realty.
Outdoors.
Right.
Okay.
But
Now,
I signed on behalf of the applicant as the attorney. That's
well,
what I did.
that also brings up another question which has been brought up.
But we have the applicant here also.
No, that's okay.
Dorso.
The reason this question has come up is because of a letter of denial was addressed to Mr. Wieners, and we would like to know what his connection is because it was addressed to him, not to you. and not to any of the owners,
I think we could address that as part of testimony, because I'm going to have to.
okay? All right, no problem, as long as it comes up.
Yep.
Victor had a question.
Go ahead,
When you
Victor.
said Dorso, I didn't hear what the answer was.
Who's the principal or the authorized person to sign for Dorso?
Mr. Weiner, who's here tonight.
Oh, okay, all right.
All right, then we may move on, correct? Okay, so the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so this is the application, New Jersey Advertising, and it's for a digital messaging board that we're proposing to put at 299 Main Street or Route 21 here in Belleville. And what we're proposing was submitted as part of these plans. What I have up here right now is actually what was submitted to the board, so you have the same thing. And what we're proposing is a two-sided.
Why don't we mark that A2? I know we have this,
Forever.
we have it, but it's in a different configuration. I believe.
No, it's the exact
Actually,
plan.
it looks the same.
Is it the exact
It's the
same
exact
one?
plan, but I'm happy to mark it this one.
Let's mark it A2. Just-
So A2, I'm going to state it today, which is the 19th, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so everything that I guess we'll mark all over, but everything that I'm going to be showing was submitted actually. Okay, so,
Is there any way that can be angled so members of the audience, we have a couple of citizens here, can see that as well?
I would love to, but I don't have an easel. I'm wondering how I could do that for you.
It's all right, it's all right.
Maybe use this chair as a makeshift.
What's that? Any what plans, please?
Well,
I can do it.
You saw it?
I have an extra set of this actually. Follow along. Yeah, you okay with it? All right. That's fine. All right. So what we're actually proposing is a two-sided digital billboard at 299 Route 21. And this is the property itself here, and it's in the parking lot, and the proposal is to erect the two-sided sign here. The sign would be visible from both sides, from 21 South and from 21 North. And the sign dimensions are about 48 feet by 13 feet, and that's reflected on the architectural plans that were submitted also. So it'll be a pole-mounted sign that comes up off of one pole and basically has those dimensions. Now, the proposal triggers three variances here in Belleville. Use variance for the sign itself, height variance, there's a 15-foot height limitation, and this is going to have about 48 feet of height. And there's also the max sign area, 150 feet. This sign is 672 feet. So those are the three variances. I'm going to have the variances are going to be testified to, as well as the use variance by our planner, Mike Castellano, who's with us here tonight. We're going to also have some testimony from Tony Weiners of Dorso Realty, and also the principal of New Jersey Advertising, Mr. Jim Malone, is here. So, that being said, that's the application, and I think we're going to start off with Tony Weiners.
Sir, why don't you come on up, raise your right hand, please. With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
State your name and spell your last name, please.
Anthony Wieners, W-I-E-N-E-R-S.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Winters, well, for the board's purposes, I thought it would be useful to have Mr. Winters up here just to talk about the neighborhood a little bit. He's been in town for a long time, he knows this property, and I thought it would be useful just for the record to explain what we have here in the neighborhood, what the neighborhood looks like, what this piece of property looks like, so we can put it all in perspective. So I'd like
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I know the question on how Tony Wieners related to Dorso Realty. I'm Mr. Dorso's Vice President of Business Relations. I've been working with Mr. Dorso. I've known him for many years, and I've been brought on to handle situations like this, to handle his permits and various things he's got going on. To start off, Mr. Dorso wants to apologize for not being here. As you know, he's got a lot of operations going. One of them being the State Fair, which is opening Thursday, and he's been going morning, noon, and night between that and his two baseball teams that he has, and so he's been quite busy. Just to touch on a little history of Dorso Realty and how it came about to Belleville. 1986, Mr. Dorso came into town with, he had a bazaar company, a church bazaar company, and he found his home at the old Drazen factory on 229 Main Street. Since then, he's expanded his footprint, as you all know, in that block between Home Street and Academy and Ralph Street and Main Street. He owns all the property except for, I believe it's 7 residential homes. Mr. Dorso has numerous companies which he headquarters out of his out of the 229 Main Street, and he also has a strip mall. He has the pool and patio store, he has the Halloween store, he's got the Christmas store, which in turn employs a lot of our youth in Belleville, and a lot of people got their start at the hands of Mr. Dorso. But I know that you're all pretty much, being in Belleville, familiar with the property.
Can you just talk about the neighborhood a little bit, where the property is located and what we've got in the surrounding neighborhood?
Well, the property is, like I said, located between a footprint between Home Street and Academy along Main Street, adjacent to Route 21 and the Passaic River. The neighborhood surrounding that is, on the Home Street side, is residential. On the Ralph Street side is residential across from Mr. Dorso's property. You have, on Home Street, across from Mr. Dorso's property, you have Alpine Nursery, and then you have an auto shop there, an auto body shop, and just north of that you have condominiums. But it's basically, as you know, it's a residential, blue-collar, working-class neighborhood.
But the road itself that we're proposing this on is all commercial, right?
Yes.
All right, and the property itself, you want to describe what he's got on the property?
Sure. Like I said, originally when Mr. Dorso came into town, it was a Drazen property, and it was just basically a warehouse. Today, we have his offices are over here. You'd have the pool and patio store in this area here, and then you have commercial. You have the pizzeria, 2 restaurants. You'd have one of Mr. Dorso's other companies, Greenpoint Energy, where he has a couple companies that work out of there. You have a dance studio, and over here you would have the Alpine Nursery and the auto body shop.
Okay. Okay, so that's pretty much what we have in terms of the neighborhood, and that's really all I have for Mr. Wieners, unless anybody has anything.
I would like to add that the stores, the new stores you're talking about to the right, were approved by this board, I think maybe about 15, 20 years ago, and I believe Mr. Mamie and Mr. Verano were on the board at the time. So there is an advantage here because we did approve a lot of the expansion that Mr. Dorso did.
Okay.
Good.
Sure. Mr. Wieners, I'm assuming, well, let me ask this. If this board approves this application, is it your intention, or Mr. Dorso's intention, to provide an easement to the applicant or sell them land, a piece of land for the pole?
It would be a lease.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be a lease.
So we're not talking subdivision, we're not talking
No.
a sale of land.
No, this is a long-term lease land of property.
Okay.
Mr. Valano.
So, it's not Mr. Dorso's side, it's just his land? The monopole?
Right, so we're going to basically be leasing a 2 by 2 foot area on the property, paying a lot of money
You
for
said
it.
we, yeah. And I'm happy for that.
Right, but that's what it is. It's going to be a lease
So,
of the
it's
property.
not Mr. Dorso's side
No,
or monopole, it's a company other than his,
Yes.
correct?
that's correct.
And he's leasing
The real estate.
the real estate. Okay, that's all.
Yes, Mr.
The
Mafucci.
building immediately adjacent to the proposed sign is, what is it used for now?
That's the warehouse for Mr. Dorso's his operations, whether it be fair storage or baseball. Like I said, Mr. Dorso owns 22 companies, and he uses that for...
But it's basically a warehousing use.
It's a warehouse.
It's a overall warehousing use for multiple purposes.
But it's all part of the complex.
Yes, that's part of the complex, yes.
Basically here, all that is going to be lost in the parking lot is one parking space.
That's correct.
One parking.
Based upon what I've seen. Yeah, I just wanted to get it in evidence, that's all. Any other questions by members of the board?
I have questions about the dimensions, but I think it's probably better to wait until...
I would wait for the architect,
I agree.
the engineer. Any other questions by board
No,
members?
I have the same
Okay,
engineer.
any questions by members of the public of this witness? None. Okay. Then you may call your next witness.
Okay. George Gratione is the principal in North Jersey Advertising, and I'd like him to talk about his company a little bit and about the sign itself, and also answer some questions regarding dimensioning and any other questions the board might have relative to the sign itself, because that's what he's in the business of.
So he's the architect?
No, he is principal in North Jersey Advertising, but he has the answers to all of these questions.
Okay.
He's the lead.
If you could raise your right hand, please. With regard to this application, do you swear your testimony will be the truth?
I do.
Just state your name, spell your last name, please.
George Gratione, Crescione.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Gratione, so you are principal in North Jersey Advertising, right?
Correct.
And how long have you been in the digital billboard advertising business?
11 years ago, I started installing small displays in bagel shops and diners. And let's just say after 6 or 7 years, I realized this was really something. And because of that, I started growing into the outdoor world. I started meeting with clients that were interested in my indoor marketing. And I met the right person at the right time. And my current partner, Mr. Spoonmaker, him and I got together and we started optimizing his properties with digital signs. So,
How many digital signs do you currently operate?
we're currently operating 4 total faces at 3 different sites. We have one on Route 15 North in Lake Applicant, right by the entrance to the lake, if anyone ever gets up that way. Okay, coming home the other way, we have one on Route 15 South, okay, on the left side after the quick check. I just erected one about, I would say it's been 2 years in Frankfort Township. That was a double-sided sign in which we had to go in front of the board once again. We were reconstructing an on-premise sign and upgrading it. It was falling apart, so that's a double-sided sign right across from Skyland Stadium, which Mr. Dorso also owns. So I'm currently working with several townships right now and getting a lot of different requests, and I'm going to let Mr. Heffley continue to answer the questions, or I'm going to go on a tangent, but I will say that I was the one who stood in the parking lot in that parking spot, and I said, I got to go find the owner of this place, because as my indoor company grew, I really started recognizing quality outdoor locations, and this is definitely one of them.
So let me ask you, for the board's purposes, because we're asking for a number of variances, what are the benefits of digital advertising? Why is it better than other advertising?
So this board is going to do a lot of things for the town, and I guarantee it. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to bring a new life to the town. Okay, and I saw that in Lake Applicant when we took static billboards that were cardboard and rusting, and we put up these brand new state-of-the-art 16mm LED signs. And obviously the first thing we got was backlash. We were the first ones to do it in that area. It's a very scenic country ride, and all of a sudden you come over the hill and boom, there's a digital billboard. And I'll never forget, they put a little ad in the paper, what is it, what is this, what are they doing? Within 3 weeks, the high school was on the phone. We're having a carnival. We got it. We'll put it up there for you. Okay, then Lake Applicant Block Party called, and then the mayor, and then everybody called. And what we ended up doing was we ended up working our program where, yes, we still have available spots to sell, but any spots that we don't have sold, we would love to benefit the township somehow, because that's what we promised you in that meeting. And it's really worked out well.
Let me ask you, so the billboards that you have currently, are they, they're all operating, they're successful, they've been operating, you haven't had any issues with them in terms of municipality, in terms of any type of problems with the police department or anything of that nature with these signs, have you?
We've seen more of a team-up approach, because we understand with the approval, we are we are eating up a whole entire side of the road in which the state will not allow this. Okay, so from this signpost, you're going to eat up a half mile in this direction and a half mile in this direction for the next person that says, well, wow, that's great, I want one too. So that just won't be possible here. So the way I view this sign is I view this as a headlining sign for the township, and you go down the hill a little bit more and there's 5 or 6 of them mixed in, and the one down by Dom Pepe's and then the one at the gas station before it, and it's a great look down there. It's obviously it's obviously a city and there's a lot of action. This board is going to be beautiful, okay? And when I say that, I mean everything we've ever installed, whether it was Lake Pacon or Frankfurt or wherever it has been, we've always gone with the highest quality boards, poles, everything. It's really just a nice representation.
Before we get to the board stuff, because I want to spend some time on that and how it works, we're going to go back to the half-mile range. So the board requires a DOT permit, right, from the
Correct.
state? Now, you've gotten that permit?
We have that permit.
So you have that permit for this location?
Yeah, originally what happened was we put our application in for the center of the parking lot. So if you're familiar with the illustration there, you see Mr. Dorso's sign that says State Fair.
Yeah.
We were going 5 or 6 spots to the right of it if you're looking at the front door because we figured it was more of an optimal spot for it. The state came back 3 times with adjustments for us. You need to go 50 feet that way. You need to do this, you need to do that. 3 times we reestablished with them, and they finally sent the crew back out and said, we agree that this location is optimal, and we also agree that you're pointing this billboard at Route 21. You're not pointing it at 229 Main Street. So the address of this property technically got us into a little trouble with the state approval because they were looking at it as Main Street, okay, which tied us into all the local infrastructure. What we were asking of them is, we're not going to be part of that. We're going to be part of Route 21 only. So can you give us some sort of a break in terms of this? And they said, absolutely. So they saw that. So they came back and sent us the approval.
So, and that DOT permit then prohibits any other digital billboards a half mile in each direction?
Correct.
Right, so basically you're here and you've got a mile stretch now where there's not going to be any other digital billboards?
Correct.
Right, by virtue of that permit that was issued?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let's go back to the sign now, because the sign that you're proposing here on this that was submitted is a Formetco sign. And I want to review for the board, why do you use Formetco signs? How do they operate? Why are they state-of-the-art and the best out there?
So the first sign that I referenced that we installed in Lake Pacon, I will be very honest with you, was a bright sign. However, that was 3 years ago. Okay, so these billboard companies have learned what really hurts the eye and what doesn't hurt the eye. I'm lucky enough to control 3 of the top 4 billboard brands that are made right now in the USA, and that would be a Formetco sign, a Watchfire sign, a Daktronics sign. Okay, those are the big 3. Those are the ones you see on the highway. Those are professional grade. They're not coming from overseas. They're fully warranted. If there's a problem, they're out here the next day. I mean, it's a very serious thing. The reason I chose a Formetco sign for this site was for a couple reasons. It's a little more cost effective, okay, number 1. Number 2, it has a matte finish, all right? I have billboards out there that are bright. They're bright. You look at it and you're like, wow, that's bright, that yellow is bright. Only one that I have that appears to be soft, where if it never changed, you probably wouldn't even know it was a digital billboard. You might think it was a static billboard lit by LEDs, is the Formetco. So that's why we chose that.
Tell me a little bit about the dimming properties of these signs also, how they get brighter and dimmer in terms of the ambient light.
Yep, there's a little honeycomb that hangs off the side of it, and if it's one of those days where at 6 a.m. it's bright and sunny, it'll juice up the power so you can read the sign and it doesn't become a distraction. If it's one of those days where it gets dark at 2 o'clock for whatever reason, it won't be running at 2 o'clock power, it will be running at 9 o'clock p.m. power. And I was just notified by my sales guy from Formetco that this is the first year they're going to dim the billboard even more at night because the technology is so much better. These things, these big giant things, are even energy efficient. They only use about $150 a month worth of energy. So it's not like it's going to be polluting the air. It's a very, very soft finish. And like I said, If we kept it static for 20 minutes, people driving by would probably think it was just a piece of paper.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the sizing of the sign itself.
Can I ask a question first, please?
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
The other signs that you mentioned, is any of them the similar type of sign?
Take down Bentley's one. Start with that one, that's great.
You're asking the bright signs.
Yeah, the one by
Well,
Don
no, the
Bentley.
one that you're gonna use, is
Right.
there a one like that
Oh,
in
yeah,
our
I-
area?
Yes.
So we know what we're looking at.
I can definitely, when I went to purchase this sign, I drove out to Pennsylvania, towards that way, and I saw the exact sign. And this company sells more sign. What's happening now in this business is what happened with televisions. They were $5,000 when they came out for a 50-inch TV, and now everyone's making them, and they're coming from China. They're doing, everything is happening right now, so there's a lot of competition. So what I'm trying to say is that they've gotten better on all levels, okay? I currently control a Fermetco, like I said, and it's the most well-received sign. I could have said I want to go with a Watchfire, which is like very impressive, but it really does not fit this area. Okay, maybe on the Parkway or the Turnpike where there's a 20-mile straightaway, but that's not this. This is more of a matte finish we need here.
Well, what I'm saying is there any sign that's the same as yours within our general area that we could
So,
say whether we've
Yeah.
seen it or not?
So the answer to that is absolutely, it'd just be a matter of getting a hold of Fermetco and finding out where there is one locally.
Sure.
Close as possible to this area, and I'm sure they could give us that information.
Okay, so you can't really tell by
Well,
what signs we're talking about.
I can tell you we can tell you that there's one on Route 15 south of Jefferson.
I've seen that one. But the one by Don Bentley, what is that?
All right, so anytime you see an out front sign, okay, they make their own billboards. All right, they don't buy them like I do. They have a company in China that sends it over. So the good news is that we're not out front, because what they do to their billboards is they juice them up 10 to 15% brightness, because they know that that's going to sell them more ads.
It is bright. It is
And they
bright.
also know that they are out front and they have lots of money and they have lots of lawyers, and they can withstand, in the event something were to happen, they can withstand anything. I cannot. So I need to operate properly.
Oh, because I'm familiar with that one. The one also where it starts the freeway on 21, which is on the right side going north, where the storage place is. Okay, I'm familiar with that. And I'm also familiar with one which is really next to Route 3, where Route 3 joins in to start going toward the Lincoln Tunnel.
Sure. Oh, okay, you're talking about the one on the right that's always
Yes.
broken, always has the dots out on it. It does a lot.
I never even noticed that.
You'd be surprised the amount of debris that comes by from these trucks when it's that close and just brings stuff at the board. So, so yeah, those are headlining. I mean, you just mentioned like the best digital billboards in New Jersey. Those are headlining billboards. When we proposed this, okay, I started by getting quotes from everybody, and when I proposed this to one of the companies, he came back with a traffic study and he said, I have to tell you something. He said, this is a very special billboard site. And I said, why is that? He said, because Belleville has circulating traffic. Lots of people just drive 21 and the streets and 21, and that's how they get around here, and they did that traffic study. So in the event that we start running some marketing for the township, and or if there's an emergency, or if there's a silver alert, or if there's a PTO tricky tray, and I actually, with my other company, I work with all the Belleville schools. I do all the school photography for them. This just happened to be a coincidence, but I'm sure the schools would like to have some signage up there as well. So
let's talk about that for a second, because that's sort of important. So the signage, I mean, people are going to, local businesses are going to end up on this sign, right? So you operate other signs, and a sign like this that we're proposing here in Belleville, is this sign going to be utilized mainly by local businesses, or how is the utilization? Because I think it's important that the board know that this is a local business opportunity to get advertising out there.
absolutely. Like anything else, local businesses have budgets. As I told you before, I have 20-inch screens in bagel shops that I still run every single day, up to a 20-foot screen on Route 15, and now we have 40-foot screens on Route 21, we think. We're going to have people that are going to be interested right off the bat. it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be an exciting new opportunity for people that maybe don't want to advertise in the newspaper anymore, or can't afford TV, or
And let me ask you, so how are you like linked up to the emergency services organizations in terms of, putting notices out there?
So I'll be very honest with you, I've had this conversation with a couple townships, and it really is about what you give me, okay? So what you see show up on that billboard will be designed by me, okay? I will be the only person that has access to the billboard, okay? So where I'm trying to go is, when I have these meetings with the townships, I tell them, you need to communicate with me what you'd like on the board, and it's got to be weeks in advance so we can design the stuff, get it approved by you, and get it to run. Very rarely do the townships step to the plate and remember that this is even available to them. And we reach back out, and that's what makes us different. The other companies, if they don't get the calls, they just, whatever, we didn't get the calls, but we notice that our business gets better when township messages are up there. It's true. It's a local network. It's an interesting thing. People will drive by. They'll say, "Oh, there's my dance studio," or "There's my auto mechanic." It becomes an exciting thing. So,
I understand that, but these Amber Alerts and emergency alerts, I mean, you're tied into the network, the
of that
emergency
nature,
network, right?
yes. So that's a whole different.
How does that work?
So what we would do in the event that there was a state of emergency, okay, we would discontinue all marketing right away, pending the message came through to me, which it would. George, we have a Amber Alert, or we have a Silver Alert, or we have something, okay? It needs to go on the board right this second. All marketing is discontinued, and that's written into our contract with our marketers, whether it's a local guy or a national guy. If there's a state of emergency and I have to turn you off, I will refund your time times 2. So if you were down for a day, I'll give you 2 back for free. So people have really liked that. And the businesses that spend money on the marketing actually really appreciate that situation, to drive by and say, wow, look at that, they're utilizing that to help the township. One more thing, as you've also seen, townships and the state have spent a ton of money on putting these Daktronic boards all over the road. You've seen the little mini ones that are popping up everywhere, the one on Route 3 by the liquor store. It's the center silver pole with the yellow lights. It's not very clear, but it's also up on the top now. But the townships and the states really, really are getting their hands on the digital stuff, so this would be at your disposal just like that.
Okay, I want to just talk because I think Mr. Fucci had some questions on the dimensioning. And then
I had questions, but before we get to that, I actually had a couple of questions for your witness. You mentioned a moment ago that you're the one that has sole access to what messaging appears, and you told us about how you would work with the community in case of emergencies. Assuming that you're not working 24/7, 365 a year, if you're indisposed, if you're away on vacation or whatever, who else in your organization is then empowered to be the interface between the community and your display board?
That's a great question. So the first thing we do to prevent that is we pre-design a folder of I'm just going to call it marketing, okay, but marketing for the town, for those situations, so we have that stuff ready, okay, because someone's going to have to get it up there. And once again, it's not just lettering. This is a trillion color billboard, so we have to utilize it to really get the message across. In the event that I do feel like I will be unable to be reached, I do have people that are trusted in my
Sure, but you have a backup. As part of your organization, you have people that go out and fix these boards, fix the lights that are out, right? Service the boards when they're out, because this stuff happens all the time.
It does.
And you're also linked up to these boards electronically, right? So you have a camera and you see what's going on at all times.
Sure. From my phone, I could turn off all my advertising right now on all the highway billboards and televisions. So if there was an issue, yes, we could react quickly.
So you
no matter
alone
what.
have control of the content. There's no one else that has the authority, the access to modify the content on those boards.
Sure. With my permission, someone can do it, but I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now for the outdoor stuff, and I'm always working. And I know it might sound crazy, but I am always on the job.
Right, but I think the gentleman's question was, there is a backup part of the organization to address the billboard when you're not around.
Sure.
Because
Somebody else that you trust that is authorized to access these boards in your absence. It's just not totally dependent upon your availability.
No. No, there is someone that knows how to log in and
So let's just say you're not a one-man show, is that correct?
I'm not a one-man show.
Okay, that's what we want to know.
Right. I'm starting to delegate.
On that note, you know, in today's day and age, hacking is a big deal.
Hackings?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a fantastic question.
So, you know, what kind of protection, you know, have you ever been hacked?
Well, my payroll was hacked, okay, but not my billboard. But
I'm more worried about your
because
billboard.
okay, well,
It's not on your payroll.
Okay, less.
well, because of that, I went home that night and I said, "Oh my God,
Right,
ADP got hacked today. What if Watchfire got hacked?"
right.
So I was one of the first people to ever call and ask him that question.
Right. It's a great question.
And I did, and I called about, I would say it was about 16 months ago, and I said, "I have a question. How are you protected?" And they went through a 100-step firewall process, and they sent me the information, and they said, you're actually, you know, not really the first one to ask, but not many people think of that. And yeah, they backed it up for me to feel comfortable to continue operating.
So they're, as part of the billboard, as part of the software of the billboard, and everything, that's baked into their billboard is the firewall stuff.
Sure. So by us working with Fermetco, we're telling them, hey, we're using your software to download these ads, okay? You better be protected, all right? And once again, they work with companies like Adams and Outfront, and they work with all the big guys who have hundreds of these boards going, so they have covered that aspect of their business.
That is definitely a concern, you would understand that.
It's 2018.
Yeah. So but the company itself, the digital billboard company, is the one that's running that firewall
Sure.
show.
Yep.
You also mentioned earlier that this display board would actually be a community asset. It would allow local nonprofit groups, schools, etc., to display message. But if I understand you correctly, that's contingent on unused advertising space. If you should, and I'm sure you're counting on it, if you sell up all your available advertising space, then there is no access to the local school. And just for your information, sitting in the audience right now is one of our Board of Education trustees in the back, and you're also looking at another one of the trustees. So when you mentioned earlier about how this could be used to help our school system, it intrigued me. But what I would like to ask, are you willing to make any commitment to offer some free slots to our school system, to some of our local groups, so that you would be a real partner with our community, not to ask us to pay, but to guarantee that we would have a certain small number. I'm not asking you to give us 8 hours a day,
Sure.
but to as your good faith effort to our community, to give the school system, some of our other groups, the town hall for different township activities, to give us some free slots in your system. Would you be willing and able to do that?
Yes, and I'll just be very frank with how this whole thing works and how we have this set up right now. Will the billboard sell out? I couldn't tell you that. I hope so, okay? But what I do have set up is I have a spot set up for Mr. Dorso, okay? And he's going to use that slot for his business, okay? Now, what we worked out in our contract was within each slot, so if you're looking at 6 slots in the billboard, okay? Within each slot, we can add as many ads as we want, all right? So Mr. Dorso would be willing to enter more ads into his rotation, because with the investment of this nature, there really is a science to getting this done the right way. And there is a science to being able to including the township all the time without taking a big hit financially. So that's how we set that up. The township will always have the opportunity to be in that slot with Mr. Dorso. So what does that mean? On a 1-minute loop, okay, it's going to go through the playlist one time, it's going to play ad number 1, which might be your Tricky Tray. Then it's going to go through, It's going to play it again, it's going to get to that spot again, and it's going to play ad number 2 in that spot. That might be Mr. Dorso. It's going to go through again, and etc. It's going to play the 3rd, the 4th. So, you're still going to get massive amounts of exposure in that situation. If we have 4 empty spots on the billboard, okay, you'll get your own spot every time.
But are you able to guarantee that the township would have slots available on your display board and as a true community partner, provide a fixed number of slots for township and school, public school system
So
activity?
I've discussed this with him, just so that I can put it out there clearly for the record. The answer to that is yes. The answer to that is absolutely, you can have a guaranteed slot for the municipality.
And for in the school system?
And schools, well, it would be a municipal slot that you could use any which way you want.
And that would be
So-
provided at a no cost?
Absolutely, yes.
So we're able to do that, and, you know, to that point, TJ was good enough to bring this I did not submit into evidence, but I'm going to. So we mark this A2, so we'll mark this A3. This is actually a letter from Frankfurt Township, where we have a digital billboard, same size, big board. And so they wrote this back to us and said, thank you so much for everything you're doing. The billboard worked out great. We enjoy our slots on it. You did a great job. You're a good community neighbor. And so this is just some proof in the pudding as to what Mr. Crescione is saying. So I think you give it to the board secretary.
Can I ask you a question?
You could
How
pass
many
these.
flash advertisements get shown on the billboard from that?
Yeah, that was, the next thing I was going to get into was the board itself. So I think that's, you're going to want to know that. Because there's some, you have to understand how the board works. So go ahead, go through that. How.
If I could ask a couple of general questions. First, you mentioned earlier that with the DOT permit, you're protected a half mile in each direction on Route 21.
Yep.
Is that just on your side of 21?
That's correct,
On
one
both-
side of the highway.
Okay, both sides of the highway?
No, one side of the highway.
One side of the highway. Okay.
Actually, I want to clarify, it's from the post. It's from the post. It's 3,000 feet.
Yeah,
3,000 feet, okay.
it's a little more, right.
It's really, and I'm sorry for not being clear on that. From that post, anyone 3,000 feet, left or right, or north or south, we'll say, on that side of the road cannot have one. Now, the rule is highway divisible, which would not apply here because they would be putting it in the river.
Right.
So that's the end of the story for that. There can't be one on the other side, but had there been land there, okay, that rule is 300 feet. 300 feet opposite.
You mean the other side of the river?
The other side of the road,
Right.
We're talking about the river now.
Right, but it's physically impossible to put anything there, so.
well, right, so,
All right. Is there any flashing or scrolling involved on your signs?
no,
You know what I mean?
absolutely not.
So that's another rule from the DOT in terms of digital billboards. You're not allowed to have any kind of motion on these boards. So you cannot have, as a third-party digital messaging board, you can't have fireworks going off and Fred Flintstone running back and forth on it because they don't allow that.
Distraction
Because it's a
for
distraction
motorists.
for motorists, right? So
All right.
they've disallowed that.
All right. The last question I have is, do you have any policy as to what you would not advertise?
Lots of stuff.
I'm talking about
well-
cigarettes, booze,
Well, I'll say
political
this.
political parties, and go.
I'll say this, we are an equal opportunity company, okay? So it does get a little sticky when, you know, one politician wants to go up and then the other guy wants to go up. We like to just stay neutral. The phone rings, if it's not something that we wouldn't put up on our own property, okay, we wouldn't put it on yours. In my years of receiving phone calls from marketers, I have no liquor companies. I can't say that's not going to change. It's just, we have lots of local businesses. We have lawyers, doctors, we have construction companies. So to answer your question, if there was something that was so in question, okay, like an adult club or something that may really shine bad, okay, what we would probably do is talk to you first, okay?
But I think the important point in that is, I mean, this is,
My question is, that's a great answer. Who's with?
But the reality of it is,
Excuse me, sir. Can you let him answer the question?
yeah, go ahead, answer your question.
What's the
Who's
question?
we?
Who's
When
we?
you said we would talk to the township if someone wants to put a gun up there or a
Sure.
or a
So,
strip club.
so the same line of communication when you want to put up the carnival, okay, would be my same line of communication right back to you saying, hey, listen, I got a call, somebody wants to go up, what do you think? I mean, if it was something in question. We've never had that happen.
I understand, but, you know,
But as a practical matter, you can't do that. Okay. So you cannot, it's not like everybody that you're gonna advertise, this is a subjective
Sure.
standard.
Sure,
So
it's
it's not
never
like you
happened.
can contact the mayor every time and say, hey, look, I wanna put up Joe and Joe Construction,
Yeah.
is that okay with you? That's not gonna happen. So the practical reality, which I think is more
I'm
important.
trying to get there.
Right, so the practical reality, which is more important, is he's running a business, and
I
he
get that.
has to stay neutral, because if he starts putting up things that are out there, right, and that are controversial, that is going to give his billboard a bad reputation at the end of the day, and he will get less ads. So if he doesn't put up ads that are middle of the road and that aren't controversial and out in left or right field, he's only going to be hurting his own business, and he knows that. So putting that kind of ad up is just counterproductive. So I would tell you that the business, his business, polices itself, okay? And you really have to take a look at the applicant and say, well, is this guy credible or not? He's got 4 or 5 other billboards, he's been doing this for 15 years, he knows what he's doing, and he's not going to advertise that kind of stuff. I think that's the real question. And then I think the self-policing aspect.
I'm only asking the question.
Yeah, I'm just,
I didn't say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna check with you. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know who he is.
I think it self-polices itself,
Right,
is
so,
the reality.
then that's not the real answer then.
Right.
The real answer is, there is no we.
Yeah, that's right, there is no we.
Okay.
Sure.
Because it won't work, is the reason.
So that's the truth. There is no we.
Well, let me ask you
When
a
you say we,
question.
it's
You
easy.
can't really discriminate, can you?
Well, no, we have, I mean, this is a business, right? So you can say, no, you don't have to take the ad.
Because I've seen billboards, I mean, I don't remember seeing anyone that was lit up, but I've seen billboards that advertised a wet, which is in Jersey, which is in Belleville, and which is an adult club, it's a gentleman's club. And I've also seen, I believe, the Satin Dolls listed, and others, yes, that's what I'm saying. So there is billboards that do show this. Matter of fact, the one I'm talking about wet,
Yeah.
for years, and it was on, and then it was off, then it was on again, was on 21, opposite the one I was talking about.
The
near
big
the,
tall one.
Yes, the big tall one to the left, coming north.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
I've seen it, and
But we are absolutely able to discriminate on content. We're allowed to do that.
Oh, yeah, I'm just asking that
Yeah,
question.
because there's no public interest in a billboard. It's a business in and of itself. There's no public interest in that. We're not subject to those regulations. So we can discriminate. If somebody comes to us and says, hey, we want to put up, a strip club, we say, well, look, we don't like that because that may not be good for us. So you're not going up. We're not going to get a lawsuit for that.
sure.
That wouldn't be a First Amendment issue? If
No.
someone had the money for an ad and you said, no, I don't like your political position, or I don't like your religion, or
Absolutely
whatever?
not, because it's a separate business. There's no public interest in the billboard. So,
Yeah, and once again, all fantastic questions. I haven't run into this yet. I've never had a strip club call. I did have a strip club ask me to put my monitors in there, and I said I could. But this isn't even about a strip club. This could be any sort of organization that might look bad on the board, right next to the school ad. So we will definitely do a good job of deciding what would look good on that, because we don't want to upset you guys, or the township, or the mothers, or the fathers of the schools that I already work with. So.
Yes, Mr. Mafucci.
I have a question. Let's say I own a used car lot in North Arlington. Would you advertise?
Of course.
So you're advertising out-of-town businesses as well?
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah, and once again, what that's going to do for you will be all positive. Okay? That will bring people here to see the ad. That will give other people from other townships ideas, like look what Belleville did. Why can't we do that? And you guys will be, although they are prevalent here, but you will be the leader of this strip of road does not have one. this upper strip of 21, and it's really as you go down that hill and you see this brand new structure, and we're inviting business into Belleville, and we're bringing people into your restaurants, and the pizzeria in the main street advertises, and then everyone hangs a right and says, oh, there's a little boutique. So I've seen it trickle all the way down to the bottom.
Based on your previous experience, what percentage of your ads are for local businesses and what percentage are for national companies? Do you have any such statistics?
Sure. Right now, I would say 100% of my ads are local businesses
Just for
because
local.
I am not technically prevalent in this market quite yet in terms of this size board. Okay? National advertisers look at one thing, two things: square footage of the billboard and traffic count. Okay? Up to this point, I've never had this square footage or I've never had this traffic count, but it's still a phone call. It's still a JPEG that I designed, and it's still a button that I click to get it to go up there. So I would say that on a billboard in a town like this, there's enough businesses where your people are going to eat up the ad space before all the national people do. Okay?
If you don't mind me asking, what do you charge for a display ad? How much money for 30 seconds, 1 minute? Do you have those numbers?
So right now, the state of New Jersey mandates an 8-second ad minimum. Okay, it used to be 6. They went around, they said we're going to make it 8. They might make it 10. Okay, but they vote, I told Mr. Heffley, they vote every 8 years on these rules. So for the next 4 years, it'll be minimum of 8 seconds.
And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is traffic safety reasons. And they've done studies on this. And with the 8-second, and our planner will talk to this, with the 8-second slot, that is the most sensitive to traffic, and there's no impact on traffic safety when you have an 8-second slot. If you go to 10 seconds, there's even less impact. But as a matter of fact, the slot would have to be as small as, I think, 2 seconds for there to be an impact on traffic. But nevertheless, that's why that 8-second rule is there. It's totally a traffic safety issue.
Back to your question, what do we charge for this? These ads, there's going to be options, okay, but these ads are going to run anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 a month per person, per side, okay? So the best thing that I can tell you is when we do sponsor your schools or your highways programs or your littering, whatever it may be, every single month that goes by, it's basically like a $5,000 value that we're partnering with you on.
And you'll be able to give us some prime time on those display boards, not at 3 a.m., which is actually great for me, but not for most of the
I was
community.
hoping you wouldn't ask that. I was hoping you wouldn't ask. Okay. I guess I got to give you, all the spots are going to be prime time on this. All of them, absolutely, and it'll just rotate.
Thanks, it's cool.
So just, from the sign going north, beyond the Alpine Nursery, are the condos. Will light from there be shining into those people's homes?
So like I said before, it's such a soft light. Okay, it's not a blinding, glaring light. The only time that I've ever seen the light travel, and this is understandable, is with a certain kind of billboard, not with what we're using here, the brighter ones that I described, when it's a foggy night, because it lights up the atmosphere, okay? So when it's a real foggy night, all right, it reflects. With this billboard, it doesn't, because like I said, it looks like a soft painting. It's not, it doesn't hurt your eyes at all. So,
So the other thing though, in terms of that, the billboards are angled to the highway.
correct.
They're not angled towards, I think it's Ralph Street, right? Is it Ralph's?
Correct. We have
So
a,
they're
we have a
angled away
15
from Ralph Street.
right, a 15-foot angle.
21.
Right. They're
Like
angled
this.
to the highway.
15 foot.
One other question.
Yeah.
So, the landlord of this property,
Yeah.
he came here many years ago, and he wanted a sign as well. He did get one, but at the time he wanted, I believe it was 40 feet, and we went back and forth. Why does it have to be, from your perspective, a business?
Sure.
60 feet.
It sounds high, but it's not.
It is high.
Well, I'm going to say this.
Trust me, it's high.
It's high. It's high because you might not be calculating the bridge height. So this is really sitting on Main Street, and then you have the bridge. The great part about this billboard is it's not hard to look at, all right? This is an eye-level read. So as you're coming around the turn, it's not one of those ones where you're going to be going like this and looking up through your skylight to see it. So to answer your question, if we flew a balloon together and you saw where the top of this thing was, it really sits nicely in conjunction with where the top of this roof is. That building that is on the back side of it really masks 99% of it from that one angle, and it kind of just encloses it. It's not just out in the open. So I do understand what you're saying.
Actually, I believe in this technology. My only thing that I fought with the landlord 15 years ago was the height of that. And
Sure.
I asked him, was he looking to advertise in the city as well?
You know, the other thing I would point out, and I think this is important, the size of digital billboards correspond to the speed of the roadway. So when you have a residential neighborhood and you're going by a school and it's 25 or 30 miles an hour, it can be a much smaller billboard because when you go by it, you have more time to look at it. When you're on highway billboards like this, you see them from much further away. And when you see them from much further away, they obviously have to be bigger. So that billboard, from when you actually see it on Route 21, from the distances that you're looking at it, it needs to correspond in size to the speed of the highway.
Here's my prediction.
That's why the ones on the interstates are huge.
Your landlord's going to use up most of your space.
Well,
Am I pretty close?
he's going to want to. I'm going to try to team him. He likes his marketing.
Oh, I know. Listen, Alan, who I know,
He loves his marketing.
yes, he does.
And another, I mean, his marketing is a staple in New Jersey.
I get it. I get it. I understand why. But I'm just saying, my gut tells me that Alan,
I think the school's going to want to take most of the time on the billboard.
he would like it, I'm sure.
No,
But, and I don't blame him, but my point is this a, I guess the question would be, because I'm not in the business of signs, is there a optimum height? Is this the optimum height, or is this the height for that location in your mind?
I would say this is the optimum height because we could have applied for any height. I could have said I want this 90 feet in the air so we could see it from another half mile back. We're really not looking for that. We're looking for that little power alley when you come around the turn, and it's just going to sit right there. Okay, when you're going south, and then coming north, it'll be to your right, and you have a nice. It really does fit the road nicely. And once again, when you see the height of the building, and then when you see the bottom of the billboard, it's really not that much higher. And as a matter of fact, there are 6 or 7 billboards within 2 miles of that are higher. If you go look, but they're static, but they're higher, and they're on the highway.
That was actually my only concern, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Not the
Which
technology.
it's a great concern because we were also worried about the height, and not that it was going to be too high. We were worried about getting the right height.
Because the two things I was concerned about when I addressed with you was a hacking point. You know, I can see me driving down there with some
Crazy thing.
some
Yeah.
bad thing on
We
there,
understand.
you know.
I got you.
Versus, and the other thing was, I don't really want it to look like Vegas, if you will. You know?
Well, that's why we had a dimmer board.
Right.
Right.
One of my colleagues brought up a good point. You know, is it 3% dimmer or 5% dimmer?
Does one of your documents say 5?
Yeah, one
Okay.
says 5, one says 3.
Okay.
Which one
So, in my
The
past,
verbiage here is actually very important. On the display board, there are the same site plans we have. It says, please note, site brightness decreased to 5%. It's being decreased by 5% or to
5%.
5%. So you're going from 100% down to 5. So
Correct.
it's actually, you're decreasing the brightness by 95%.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I actually-
95%.
Right.
It's being dropped by 95%.
I actually, an hour before I
Oh,
came
at
here,
night. It says at night.
At night.
Right.
I
One says
modified
5 and one says
that
3.
part, so I apologize for that they don't coincide, but I was just notified from my billboard guy who's been calling me every single day to ask me what's going on. He said, by the way, please let them know that with the newer model that you're getting, it is 3%. So thank you for catching that.
So
It is,
It's by 97%.
97%.
Right, so it's reduced by 90,
you don't,
that's
you barely need anything at night. It just needs to be on. You don't need any juice at night.
Mr. Villano's question brought up for the first time tonight, confirmation of the true height of this display board, because twice tonight, previously, the height had been referred to as 48 feet, but it's actually, just so it's right, it's 60 feet. The top of the sign, according to the image with the, well, just refer to this as the Christmas tree image. I brought my little laser pointer here, but according to that, the top of the sign is 60 feet above grade.
My error, I'm the one who said 48.
All right. I just want to make sure, because it's also in the building, the construction code report on it says 48 feet, but it is 60. It's 60 feet. It's the height.
I misspoke.
And I want to say something. On my way to this meeting tonight, I was on 21, and I can tell you these two billboards, lit billboards that we're talking about, the one that's right near the storage unit, for example.
Yep.
That starts, the bottom part, starts at the roof of the storage unit, which is 3 stories high. And based upon the pictures I'm seeing here, the bottom part of this is coming up about 2 stories high. So technically the ones in Newark are higher than this.
I don't live in there.
Huh?
I don't live in there.
Yeah, but I hang there all the time.
Also,
So anyway,
remember-
that one plus the one I believe at Don Pepe's is much higher than this.
They might be, because I don't know, because we're also 20 feet down. So we're dealing with this highway vision, but where the board really isn't where people will be viewing it from.
Yeah, he's right about that. You're right.
No,
Exactly.
yeah.
Most of the people will be viewing it from 21 and they'll go
Sure.
higher up. Yes, I
Sure.
And he's right. It is a 20-foot drop.
So just so you can visualize this, from your dashboard, when you're driving and you see this billboard, from your dashboard, it's going to be about 6 inches above your dashboard to your eye vision. It's going to just be right there. Because I feel the taller ones are more of a distraction in my eyes, because you look up at them. This you will look straight at.
Could we now address just some of the dimensions that are put in the one rendering, again with the Christmas tree display? You're indicating that the total vertical height, I brought my laser pointer again for easy reference, the total vertical height is 60 feet. And then you have a measurement of 46 feet, which would be from the parking lot to the bottom of the sign, not the apron. The apron is approximately 43 feet above the parking lot. When I looked at this, I immediately saw some inconsistencies. Perhaps just the photoshopping where you layered the sign wasn't done properly to scale, but the building, the warehouse right behind the sign, to the top of that roof is 15 feet. Now, if you double that, you just use your imagination, double
Sure.
the height, that would take you to 30 feet. And you have your sign beginning right about then. So it seems to me that the vertical height to the bottom of your sign is going to be much higher. And to reinforce this point, as you probably know, there's an existing telephone pole right behind your sign with a solar panel on top of it. And the height of that, according to Google Earth, is 32 feet. So again, the dimensions in your rendering don't seem to be consistent with what I'm seeing in Google Earth. Your sign, the bottom of your sign, even the apron part, would start 11 feet higher than what you're indicating. So that drawing, I don't think is, whatever photoshopping you did, is properly scaled. The sign is actually going to be much, much higher in vertical extent than that image would lead you to believe. And when I then use Google Earth to look at the sight lines along Route 21, you said earlier that DOT regulations preclude any other signs up to 2,500 feet. But it looks like, based on what I was seeing from Google Earth, you have a clear line of sight north and south of your sign, going back anywhere from 4,000 to 4,500 feet. So you're well into Newark and even into Nutley, which, as I'm sure you're interested, you'll have then, by the time when people first see your sign, they'll have the opportunity to get to the exit off of 21, whether they're going north or southbound.
Sure.
But I just want to clarify this. Your sign is going to be much higher than that image would lead you to believe.
As the person who created everything you see here, okay, I can honestly tell you that not everything is drawn perfectly to scale.
But I think what we need to put on the record is the size of the sign, right? So what's the bottom of the sign, what's the top of the sign, and how wide is the sign?
Sure. All that's outlined right there.
48 feet to the bottom.
Yeah, so the top of the sign is going to be at 60 feet.
And the bottom of the sign is going to be at
48.
46.
43, no.
46, and then there's a 3-foot apron
Right.
on the bottom.
Include the apron.
Yeah.
And the width of the sign is going to be?
The width of the sign is exactly 48 feet, 3 inches.
Okay. So that's sort of,
So this billboard's going to be much more prominent. It's going to be much more, much higher, not high enough to cause any problems with low Earth orbits of the space station, but nevertheless, it's still going to be much higher than this drawing would indicate. So it's going to be visible from quite a distance along Route 21, almost upwards of a mile, rather than half a mile in either direction, according, again, to what I saw using Google Earth
Right.
and reviewing the site plan.
and I think that makes it a better situation for utilization of the billboard to be able to see it from further.
Sure.
So some positives to that, you're right.
Any other questions by members of the board of the witness? Any questions by members of the public of the witness? None. Okay, is there a third witness? I
Yes,
assume?
so we just want to finish off with our professional planner. We just put the planning testimony in with regard to the variance, so the record.
Which is very, very good idea since this is a D application.
Yes, two Ds, the height
Two
and
Ds,
and
exactly.
use.
Well, one D is enough. Two Ds doesn't double it. It's just, all you need is one for this.
Anyway,
Could you raise your right hand? With regard to this application, do you swear that your testimony will be the truth?
I do.
Could you state your name, spell your last name, please?
Michael J. Pesolano, P-E-S-S-O-L-A-N-O.
So Mike, could you just give the board the benefit of your educational and business background and experience
Yes.
as a professional planner?
I believe I was before this board in the late 2000s.
And you were?
Well, that was a long
I
time
don't
ago.
remember which one it was, but I recognize some of you work on it. But anyway, I was originally licensed in 1984 as a professional planner. I'm still a licensed planner in good standing. Never interrupted that licensing. I'm also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. Never expanded.
That's good. Is there any other boards locally that you've been before? Besides us in Lake
Oh,
2000?
dozens and dozens. I'm sitting currently as the Township of Livingston Board Planner for Board Planners.
Oh, that's
I
good.
also served the city of Hackensack, both of their boards for 4 years in the 2000s.
That's good enough.
Okay, so
Any objection?
you're a professional
Accepted
planner.
as an expert, correct? Okay.
So, Mike, so obviously you've had a chance to review the site, you've taken a look at that, you understand what the variances are. Why don't we just go, why don't you?
Yes, I have an exhibit to present. Shall we mark that A3, Mr. Riddle?
We can do that.
A4.
We're at A4, yeah. Frankfurt Township letter was A3.
A4, June 19. I have enough copies for everybody and then some. I don't know where I'm supposed to go across this boundary. So
Mark this A4.
Yes. And for the record, what is A4?
A4 is a series of map exhibits. A 4-page exhibit. The size of the exhibit is 11 inches by 17 inches. For those who are not able to see the exhibit as I talk about it. But let me get into the meat of it until everybody has it in front of them. Then I'll describe each page, but that's okay. While that's taking place, I did indeed review the application materials, touch base with the township zoning and master plan materials, visited the site, discussed it with the applicant's team. The exhibits that you're looking at, by the way, were prepared in collaboration with my colleague, John McDonough, who's also a professional planner and landscape architect. So everybody has it now. A4, page 1 is simply an exact map representation of the subject property involving 4 parcels. representing the shopping center and the warehouse that was mentioned earlier to the south of the parking area of the shopping center. Turning on to page 2, so that comes to life by looking at the aerial image that has the boundaries of the same site superimposed upon it. The lower left-hand corner of the parking area that you can see on this page 2 aerial is really the main takeaway for this entire exhibit. It shows it being very proximate to Main Street and Route 21 just beyond. Highway corridor, basically, travel corridor, not impacting residences in any significant way, and certainly in the area where state and federal guidelines say they should be in a non-residential type of setting. So, on to page 3 of Exhibit A4.
Can I ask a question for clarification?
Please.
By presenting this, hasn't at least one of the waivers been eliminated? Especially with this page here.
It's not shown on the plan, Mr. Chairman, so I think that's what was mentioned before, that a site plan should have on it these sort of things, and this is just not on it.
So
No, I'm just saying, because one of the waivers that was requested, I believe, had the uses within 200 feet, you have them here.
Yeah, that's correct. They're on a separate plan now.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't show the 200-foot range, but effectively it is doing that. Great observation. Page 3 of the exhibit shows land uses in a more absorbable way than the aerial will show. It identifies, in a general way, the land use categories that surround the subject property. Again, the site being within the blue outline, in this case, the proposed billboard is just above the M on the word Main Street in the lower part of this diagram. So as far away as residential areas as you can be without being in the right of way of Main Street itself and in the traveling way. So generally speaking, a very good location for this type of messaging board. And finally, page 4 of Exhibit A4 displays the zoning maps information in a blown-up fashion. Not all of the zoning map obviously is captured here, but an excerpt from the zoning map in enlarged fashion shows how the property in question clearly within the BF district, which is not a residential zone. Planned retail and light industrial is what the BF zone stands for. So that's it for the exhibit. It provides a nice backdrop for the rest of the discussion. Nothing more to glean from that than what I described. Now, as mentioned, 3 types of zoning relief are required for this application to be approved. One, the most important one, is a D1 variance where the use is simply not permitted in any district in the community. There are several ways that the zoning ordinance does that. It positions in various sections of the ordinance as prohibition on billboards, except for existing billboards which may not be enlarged or relocated. So for the use of a billboard, a D1 variance is required. A D6 variance is required for the 60 feet of height, was the discussion just before I took the stand. As you know, a bulk variance or variance pursuant to section C of the statute for a sign area of 672 square feet versus the 150 square feet as required. And I have to credit Mr. Huffley for getting that right on the money. Even though the height thing didn't come out right. So anyway, we're talking about a use that is really a specialized form of land use. Most of what I talk about tonight is about buildings, things, boxes, shapes. This is a very interesting type of land use, but to save time here, let me just leave it at that. These are message boards, sort of like the earliest form of social media, where we communicate with each other through a medium that's commonly viewable. Our U.S. Supreme Court has weighed in on the value of this type of land use in particular, finding that it promotes constitutional free speech. a fundamental right. Our state legislature has also found that this land use is necessary to stimulate commerce, economic development. And that is certainly at the local level, as has been indicated in prior testimony. These devices are actually an instrument of several entities in our common life. One is the business community, certainly relying on billboards in a big way to get messages to a mass audience. Billboards are also an instrument of inherently beneficial uses, such as schools, such as churches, such as hospitals. I think that's a tremendous public benefit right there. Digital billboards also provide the public benefit of real-time messaging, as we discussed earlier about emergency interruption of commercial messages for real important urgent stuff that needs to be communicated. The ambulance alerts, the fugitive alerts, public service announcements of all sorts. So the benefits that I just spoke of also promote purposes A, G, I, and M of the municipal land use law, A being promotion of the general welfare, G being providing for appropriate uses in appropriate locations. Section I deals with promoting a desirable visual environment. The developer of this billboard testified at length about it being the top of the line as far as attractive, as far as a billboard can be made attractive. It is going to be done to the greatest level possible, is what I believe. And of course, purpose M is the efficient use of land, repurposing a single parking space for this very beneficial use in a very strategic location certainly makes infinite sense. This site is indeed particularly suited for the proposed use for the following reasons. First and foremost, NJDOT has issued a permit, and it has not just put a stamp on it and handed it up the door. It was through serious scrutiny of where it was proposed, the height, etc., the size of it, and so forth. So this makes this location a permitted location at the state level, as they have issued that permit. The site, as I mentioned, is in a non-residential section along a highway. This is where the state says this type of use should be. Third, both federal and state laws recognize that this land use belongs somewhere. It has become part of the fabric of our culture, of our society, and well utilized, well recognized as helpful on many levels. As far as the impact side of the analysis goes for the D1 variance, there are, in my opinion, no impacts of a substantially adverse nature. And that can be broken down into three types of impacts: functional, safety, and brightness, and visual. The functional aspects, I think, are pretty self-explanatory. It is functionally innocuous. The billboard is there. It's there. It's not producing traffic. It's not producing noise. It's not producing any kind of odors. It's innate and innocuous as it can get for a land use, a productive land use, I might add. There's no population density associated with billboard either. As far as safety impacts go, the fact that NJDOT has issued a permit following a safety-based analysis, their regulations are the safety book on highways. So it would be illogical to conclude that the agency charged with safety on the highways would mess up their mission by approving something that just isn't safe. So it's kind of a certification that this is a safe placement, in my book anyway, when the state issues such a permit. And as was mentioned before, national studies have already corroborated that the 8-second display period is not a distraction to motorists. As far as brightness impacts go, I'm very impressed with the testimony, backing up my own understanding of the way the industry has evolved. The design of the facility cuts down on any possibility of light glare, either vertically or sideways or down. Louvers are built into the screen face so that the message goes horizontally to the eyeballs of the people intended to see it, the drivers. The illumination intensity diminishes over distance, just like sound does, so that you don't have a continuous beam of light that can go to the moon and be seen from there. It cuts down as the distance away from it increases. There's no objectionable glare, that this is representing a changeable image, but in effect a static image. It changes instantly, but once it does, it's staying in that one position without indicating movement or animation, flashing lights, explosions, or what have you. The visual impacts are really not a criteria when judging negative impact here, because just because something is visible does not render it objectionable. Every development, everything put on the ground is visible in some way. So that's really not a criteria that you can see this device. Visual impact is what the board should consider, not the visibility of it, is what I'm saying. And based on what I just reviewed with you, visual impact here is not substantial. So it certainly doesn't rise to a substantially detrimental impact, if there could even be a detrimental impact associated with this particular location for this particular design, in my opinion. The mitigation of any visual impact is achieved by separation, as was discussed before. There will not be a billboard right next to this one. Quite a bit of spacing is contemplated by the state regulations. And there will also be saturation. There's not just this billboard to see in the view shed of the driver, many other things in the built environment in this particular location. So it's not like it's the only thing at the edge of the woods in the middle of the night. It is part of a developed area that is lit at night as well. As far as the zone plan impacts, I find negligible here. In fact, this billboard, because of the nature of the use, is being a tax positive use because we don't have rescue calls, probably. Maybe, I guess, if somebody fell off the phone, there may be a rescue call, but no school children generated by it. None of the traditional impacts that can be assigned to land uses other than this will accrue from this billboard. So the tax impact is very positive and important to advancing one of the principal economic goals of the master plan, which is to try to stimulate retention and production of such uses to help balance the tax base. This relief that's requested at the D1 level relates to a specific piece of property with distinct characteristics. So we're not talking about something that would apply to the entire zone, even if there wasn't that spacing requirement which we focused on before. And the relief that is requested is not tantamount to a rezoning of the entire district. It concentrates a discrete single location for the proposed program. As for the and finally, the enhanced quality of proof, this is a Medici analysis. Digital billboards have come into their own probably in the last decade. So master plan being produced in 2009, I don't think it was quite on the radar in the way that it is now. So rather than see it as inconsistent with the planning policy of the township, I think it's a matter of catching up with changes. And that's why the municipal land use law requires every 10 years there to be a master plan reexamination report, because nothing stays the same, as you know. Look at your own personal life. Well, that's magnified on society's scale. Everything's in motion, new technology, new ways of doing things. So I don't think it's an affront to the intention of the planning policy of the township, even though the variance is nonetheless required. The board also has authority to grant the D6 relief for the height at 60 feet, where 15 feet is the maximum for signs. I think this is more of a technical issue because yes, a billboard is a sign, but it's not a sign. It's advertising something not on the premises. The signs that are regulated by this 15-foot height are on-premise signs. So anyway, a bit of a mismatch there, but I'm clear that this application satisfies the lesser standard for D relief that is embraced by the Grasso and the Jacoby cases. The Grasso case basically indicates that there should not be blocking of scenic views, imposing of negative shadows, adding population, or creating a skyline to something that is proposed to exceed the height limit. It definitely doesn't trip over that. Back to the positive side of things, that the height itself is necessary for recognition and appropriate placement along the highway corridor. Again, very clearly and carefully studied by NJDOT before their issuance of the permit. And I was very impressed with the logic offered earlier that very little head tilting necessary, if any, to capture the message on this board that should drive. I like that message rather. I have seen some, I've traveled the 95 corridor for decades between New Jersey and Massachusetts, and I've got to say, it's a relief to be able to look at something straight on rather than to have to crane your neck if you want to see it at all. The added height that we're talking about really is necessary to effectuate the use. What's the point of having a message board if it's going to be hard to see? So if it's placed just right and it's seeable by most people, I think that makes sense. Just finishing with the negative criteria, the added height will not create any substantial negative visual impact from any vantage point. And I say substantial to qualify what I said before, visual, just being able to see it is not a negative impact in and of itself. So it has to be a substantial negative impact for the criteria not to be satisfied pursuant to the MLUL case law. Finally, we have the area of the signage. It's 672 square feet, where 150 is the maximum limit. The board has this authority to grant this relief under the C1 hardship analysis or the C2 balancing test. I find that it fits both criteria, really. The applicant is proposing a sign face that is the industry standard. In other words, as was pointed out before, highway speeds require a message board of certain dimension so that it's effective, but without being unsafe. So certainly that's advancing a very positive thing, but when the sign is having to be what the sign has to be, it's kind of a hardship that you cannot do anything less than that and have an effective and safe messaging board. It also meets the C2 balancing test because the benefits of a very legible and safe sign is common to the use, and this would certainly outweigh any detriments that I could see. So it clearly meets, clearly meets the C2 balancing test as well. So thank you for your attention. I want to wrap up by saying the applicant, to me, has clearly met its burden under the law. The testimony on the record supports the planning conclusions that I just shared with you, and the statutory tests for all relief required are met, and I suggest that approval is warranted. Thank you. Let me have your questions.
Any members of the board have questions of the witness? Any members of, you have one, okay.
One question. Did you earlier indicate that it was your opinion that a billboard is inherently beneficial use?
No, I said that inherently beneficial uses use billboards as a device to communicate their message.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Any members of the public have a question of this witness? No? No,
Thanks for your kind attention.
very thorough, very good presentation.
My pleasure.
have one question,
Yeah, go ahead.
and it's not even with you, it's Mr. Harrods' report.
Sit down.
Mr. Harrods, I have a question. In page 2, site plan, number 4, and I might be missing something, I'm trying to find, unless Maine is a county road, I'm trying to figure out why the county planning board's involved.
It's not a county road.
It's not.
No.
So why would the Essex County Planning Board be involved?
Sometimes they want to see these things on.
21's a state highway, it's not a county.
You know,
By the way, for your information, there is a second highway.
Yeah.
Route 7 is considered a highway.
Right.
And that's very close.
Sometimes the county wants to see it too if it impacts county drainage, but this has nothing to do with drainage at all.
No.
So I think they would just pass on this in any event.
Well, it was in Mr. Herbert's report, which is why I brought it up there.
Well, sometimes, you just send it there because you never know what they consider drainage. But there's no development at all.
No, it's not.
So, but, sometimes 3 drops of water ends up in a detention basin that they manage or the sewer
And
drain.
even with Hurricane Sandy, I didn't see any billboards blown over. Of this type, by the way.
Yeah.
And by the way, they are at an angle like a V,
Yeah.
to a degree. Yeah. Okay. Okay, do you wish to sum up, or do you wish to
Yeah.
just have us vote?
You know what, I don't need a lot, I don't need a lot of summing up. I think the application, it makes a lot of sense for this location. I think
Oh,
we've had lots of...
one more thing, I'm sorry, I had to ask this question, but I almost forgot since nobody asked any questions. Does any members of the public wish to give testimony on this application? No? No? I guess no public participation. So go
Okay.
ahead, now you may sum up.
Yeah, so I don't have a lot. I mean, I think that the applicant here has presented an application that makes sense on this piece of property. I think it's going to work well for the municipality and for the applicant. The variances that are triggered, I think, are appropriate in terms of this use and are justified in granting. And I think ultimately this will be a very beneficial use for the municipality at this location. And I would request that you respect it.
Okay. Now that the case is closed, members of the board, your pleasure. We're in the discussion now on what we want to do.
Again, my concern was, as we all know, from 20 years ago even to now, was the height. The reason I'm not as concerned is one of the things that is the technology. I was worried about the old sign that was on State Farm. I made them lower it, but at the same time though, that was one brightness, and that was it. It was on, one brightness, and that's it. This is different technology now, so I have to concede that.
We didn't have these in those days.
I think, as he stated, if I'm wrong, he'll correct me, they reduced the panel by 97%. So that lessens my concern regarding not 21, the neighbors, quite frankly. So if it's not going to be glaring in their backyard, I'm okay with that. I mean, do I like Las Vegas style signs? Not really, but you got to change with the times as well. And this is the way the technology is going. It is a business. I don't really discourage businesses. So from my point of view, my concern is really moot now because of the technology. So that's kind of where I'm at. If anybody was paying
As a
attention.
follow-up to Mr. Milano just expressed, I'm just concerned that by allowing a sign of this height, that we may be opening up Pandora's box. And I remember just a year ago when the Walgreens case was before the planning board, the applicant there wanted a display board, modern LED display board, and they were asking for just 25 feet above the ground, and the planning board said no, that was too high, it wouldn't be consistent with the surrounding area. Now, granted, Main Street is different than Washington, but nevertheless, I'm thinking in long-term in the sense of fairness. Can the Walgreens people now come back and say, oh, the zoning board just gave approval for a height of 60, we want our sign back, we want our sign at 25 feet, or are we Are we?
No, they can say it, but it doesn't
Different
work.
location.
It doesn't work that way. Every application
Yeah,
stands on its
and it's two different highways. That's Route 7, this is Route 21.
It's a different area, they're different
Yeah,
areas.
it's totally different. And that's and you gotta remember, Washington Avenue is a business district.
Yes.
This is not a business
I
district.
acknowledge, it's a different, there's different areas involved.
But yeah, I was concerned about some of the same thing, I'll tell you, I wasn't. But, you know, I gotta think outside the box a little bit. Said, has the technology changed my position? Yeah, it has a little bit, yeah.
I appreciate the fact that the applicant is willing to give our community some free space on this display board, but I want to ask council, do we need to codify how much time we're going to get and what time
No.
the days or?
What I was thinking, in addition to our normal bread and butter conditions, as far as reports, paying taxes, on that issue, what I was going to suggest was that the applicant shall use its best efforts to work with local community organizations regarding free advertising. Leave it at that. I mean, we can't get into, we don't know enough about the business to eyeball numbers and how much time, so we'll just
That would be
leave it at
fair
that.
anyway.
Any problems with having no
No,
flashing, no motion, which is state
That's right, state required anyway, and I think that that language in terms of the municipal utilization of the board is good. And I think, you know, we had a credible applicant and witness here, and we also presented the letters from Franklin Township. You're going to be treated very well. So I think that language works.
No, that's freedom of speech. The one thing that I have to say about this is I really don't see any negative to this. I can see a positive. I don't see any negative whatsoever. And to be honest about it, I think this is a good application, very fair, very honest. And I'm in favor of it, I'll be very honest with you. I've seen these billboards, they've impressed me, the ones I've mentioned, which is at least 3. And actually, I think I can't read it fast enough, even though you say it's 8 seconds now. But the thing is, I think it's only a plus, it'll bring more people to businesses in Belleville, and even across the highway to North Arlington, because you'll be seeing it far enough away to get off at the exit for Route 7 and make the right turn and go to North Arlington or Kearney.
Absolutely.
So I think it's only good for the community as a whole, and the surrounding communities also.
I agree. Yeah, so can we move forward?
Yes, but I want to add to one of the conditions that the construction, of course, our limit has to be started within 2 years.
Yes, yes.
You know, any other conditions? That's it? No?
Like council says, our standard, construction code and engineer.
Yes. Okay,
And the
so,
application needs 5 votes, obviously.
yes.
5
Well, I
yes
have a
votes.
motion to approve. Motion made by Mr. Caruso. Seconded.
On condition.
With conditions?
Yes.
Okay. Seconded by Ms. Loslow. I said it right this time.
No, no.
Well, what's that? Loslow. Terrible. Okay. As you can see, this is very humorous board. Clerk, call the roll.
Caruso,
Yes.
Fucci,
Yes.
Sheldon,
Yes.
Milano,
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes. It's approved unanimous.
Wait.
Wait a minute, we missed.
2 others.
There's 2 others.
Casa.
Everybody up here, yeah. They're all eligible.
Casa.
Yes.
Lozo.
Yes. She said.
Low.
You said that
You
last
said
week.
it.
I really want to thank you for your time and patience.
You're welcome, and it was approved 7-0.
All right, we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Motion to
You can't get a higher vote than that.
Motion to
Thank you, on behalf of Dorso Realty, I want to
Yeah, they consider.
thank the board for taking the time and calling this special meeting and moving the project forward.
I'm glad we were able to get
Be
it done.
positive for the town and for the
I like the other one.
Motion to adjourn. Acclamation, gentlemen, to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes, okay. We're adjourned.